again for another fun Tuesday. Today, I want to welcome Ryan to the show. Ryan, so you're on Stallion Stampede. Tell me a little bit more about yourself, where you come from, and more about your show, please.
I'm Ryan Messer. I've been from living in Birmingham my entire life. Major was a big fan of the Birmingham Iron during the AAF, and then as soon as the Birmingham Stallions came back, jumped on that train. Been running media for them for the past 3 years. So been with Shotgun Sports for 5 years. So it's been a great run. So love Birmingham sports altogether. We cover everything from the Birmingham Stallions to the Birmingham Barons of the minor league baseball to the squadron of the NBA G League. So just major fan of all things Birmingham sports.
So you're amongst the few that really pursue those Birmingham sports. I mean, I know there's a few of you guys that are hardcore covering everything you can in that area, and it's awesome because the big news isn't doing it. So props to you, man. Good stuff.
Yeah, the biggest thing around here is collegiate sports for the mainstream broadcast media. So that's the thing about Shotgun Sports. We try to get out there and make sure that that the things that are not being covered, the sports that are not being covered by the mainstream media, is getting covered. You know, there's talking points so that people can sit there and listen to. So.
Got a comment from Shotgun Sports. Shotgun Sports represent. Hey, that's what's up, man.
That's my partner up in Edmonton, Scout. So shout out.
He does CFL stuff as well, right?
He does CFL, yes.
Channel. So, guys, if you're new to Ryan or Shotgun Sports or the Stallion Stampede, check out their YouTube. You have a website as well, and I'll include all that in the notes, just linked right to it, so it's easy to get to. Here at the bottom, I'll also have you rolling a little bit so people can find you if they need to. So, man, before we start breaking down these games, tell me what's been the best part about the season so far for you, being hometown Stallions true and through? Just what is it?
Just seeing how the passion and just unrelented just mentality, the strength of the mentality of these players on this team, and their unwillingness to give up. They're not willing to give up when the stakes are down, and the next man up mentality has been really strong in this team. And they don't act like they're undefeated. They act like they are still trying to compete to get into the playoffs. They clinched the playoffs 2 weeks ago, but they're still trying to fight like they're struggling for their life to compete into this playoffs. So just to see the strength of this team just go all out, and the 1-0 mentality and 0-0 mentality in the game as far as score is concerned. So just that mentality that this team has, and passion and hard work ethic,
Yeah, I'm impressed, man. Coming as a XFL guy, I didn't do too much on the USFL end in the past few years. And after watching the team this year, I'm definitely impressed. There were times, numerous games, where they could have lost due to their own mistakes, but they definitely rised above the toughness of whatever was going on and put through whatever they needed to do to win. And so I'm impressed as well. Like I said, there was like the DC game, for example. If DC would have, they gave them an opportunity to catch up and win that game, but Stallions weren't going like that. So I like it.
Yeah.
It's one of the teams I know, as long as we have the same quarterback, that the consistency is usually there. We know when we go watch the Stallions, we're going to be watching something. It's going to be something, whether it's passing game, running game, a fight, it doesn't matter. So I'm enjoying that team as well.
Absolutely. And I got to say, we got to face your Roughnecks coming up this week. So I can't say I'm not nervous because that record is kind of deceiving because you guys came really close in a bunch of those games. Y'all are a really sneaky good team.
Yeah, I think there's some some key things to make that team better, and I don't want to get into it right now, but I agree with you. The stupidity and bad decisions really are the factor of that record that the Houston Roughnecks have right now, especially watching last week's game against the Brahmas when the opportunity was there numerous times and they could not capitalize. But yeah, at least you guys locked down your playoff spot. If you do lose, I mean, it hurts the record, but you're still good to go ahead and get in that playoff spot and looking to face Michigan.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to face them back to back. And I said this on my podcast that we just released, but it doesn't matter how bad a team is. It's still it's still going to be hard to face and beat a team back to back, regardless of how good or bad the team is. It's just they can sit there and manipulate the way that you learn your game plan and stuff like that. It's hard to beat a team back to back like that. So
Agreed.
We're definitely in for it.
It'll be a good last few games when we get there between you guys and the St. Louis debacle as well, potentially playing in the championship. It seems like the last few games should be worth watching, especially if you're a fan. So
yeah,
I agree with you there. For week 7, did you feel like everything went well? I mean, in terms of gameplay and I guess attendance.
Attendance was decent. It was better than we've seen all season. I was really pleased to see that, they actually had to open up more seating, more areas, sections for seating. But another thing, as far as the performance, like Coach Holt said, there were a lot of issues that we really shot ourselves in the foot. Muff punts, block punts, stuff like that. Stupid penalties,
And we'll get to that. We'll break that down a little closer after we talk about the first game for sure.
I just briefly,
I knew you'd
like
have some stuff for that. When I asked you to come on, I knew you were going to come ready, so that's why I did that.
I was just frustrated with some of the stupid things that happen, but still came out on top. That was the big thing.
Yes, sir. And more fans are showing up, so that's the big thing as well. You guys in Birmingham are pulling more, which you should, rightfully so. Let's go ahead and get into it. So let's talk about the first game of week 7, and that was the Memphis Showboats took on the Arlington Renegades. The Showboats got defeated 47-23. That game was in Arlington. Let's review the attendance and TV numbers as well while we're here. We had 8,042 in attendance, and the average TV viewers on ESPN was 586,436. So we definitely fell from last week's attendance. I guess that too, attendance and average TV numbers, but it's not terrible in my opinion. And that unless we dip below that 500,000 mark, we're going to have some issues for sure. But back into the game, the game itself looked to be a decent game to start it off. I know coming into the first quarter, I thought it was going to be a close game. Now, after I watched the second quarter, I realized that this was not going to be a close game. Luis Perez looked really good, 27 for 32 with 296 yards and 3 touchdowns. Arlington had the highest point outing set for the UFL so far with the 47 points. They also had a good running game. Devion Smith, 14 attempts for 101 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's something that Arlington has been lacking. We saw the effectiveness of using that running game in this game, and I thought it made a big difference for them. Arlington had 4 sacks against the Showboats, and this is a repeated occurrence for the Showboats. I don't know. I guess it's just their offensive line. Cookus was strip sacked again. So this has happened, I think, every game this season almost. He's been strip sacked at least once. Troy took over. Troy was leading the game until he was injured after halftime. But if you look at the stats for Troy and Case, I mean, it's very similar in stats. So who knows what's going on there. But what I wanted to note about the Showboats itself is no matter who's at quarterback, we're seeing that they can't do much. It's a constant pressure front.
And honestly, I don't count that on them. I believe it's that offensive line. Honestly, that Showboats team is really one of the biggest disappointments to me this season, because you take I really expected, with Coach Flip going up there from the New Orleans Breakers, and then him bringing a bunch of the players up from that team, and then bringing Kukas in. I really expected a lot more from this team.
Same.
But unfortunately, it seemed like that it just didn't turn out that great. And honestly, it just like I said, that offensive line is just not holding for anything.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what they do next year, just in terms of like the draft and stuff, because a team like that, we can clearly see what the issue is. There is no mystery coaching decisions. There is no, well, this guy's hurt. It's up front. They cannot protect the most valuable man on the field. So I got a video from DeMarcus Colors. He's one of our contributors with AFN. He sent me a video, and I clipped out about 2.5, 3 minutes of it. And it's more or less just talking about the Renegades and the side of the ball, just them. So wanted to play it before we moved on to game 2, if that's okay with you.
That's fine with me.
Sounds good. Let me find it and we'll get it started. Now keep in mind, guys, like I said, I clipped this. So it was about a 7-minute long clip, and I just edited it to get 2 minutes. So here we go.
Arlington gets up on a 14-3 lead pretty early in the game, and you start to be able to see right then and there that it wasn't going to go Memphis' way. Tene Adewusi gets an interception. Arlington's able to capitalize off of that. Now, later on in the game, the score is 22-9. The offense for Arlington starts to kind of cool down a little bit. They start kind of settling for field goals a little bit. But they go into halftime with a very, very comfortable lead. Memphis didn't really seem to have all that much momentum. Now, later on, third quarter, scores 39-17. And funny enough, even though that sounds like a blowout score, around that point in time when the score was around 39-17, I actually started kind of getting a little nervous. Because if there is any team this year that's shown themselves to be able to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, it's the Renegades. I mean, they just seem to have the worst luck when it comes to these games. So I was hoping that Memphis was not going to creep back into this game. But Renegades were able to kind of keep them held off a little bit. Kind of want to talk about some of the stats from the game, because I think by now everybody knows kind of what the score was and things like that. But this is probably one of the more complete games that the Renegades have been able to put together. Aside from a fumble on a punt, a kickoff, you really didn't have a lot of mistakes being made by the Renegades in this particular game. I mean, again, their problem is that they're a little bit of an undisciplined team. And you did see that kind of creep up here and there, but for the most part, I think this is probably the most complete game that we've seen from them.
All right, we're back in action. So I'll tell you, I mean, he's pretty much correct in everything he said. I'm glad that they did have a good game, though, and it was enjoyable to watch them actually do some things on that field.
Yeah, their record doesn't show it, but they've been really close in almost all their games.
Yep.
They've been really competitive. So that record is not really true. Like I said about the Roughnecks, I mean, they've been really close to winning in a bunch of their games. So I was really surprised to see that. I'm not surprised to see that they actually won that game, because they're actually a decent team.
Yeah, they're second right now in total yards, only under Birmingham, of course, with 1608, 11 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So it speaks volumes when you look at that as well. It's just some bad decisions have lost in them games, or bad mistakes at the wrong time have lost in those games.
Absolutely.
But anything else on this game before we move on?
Not really. Like I said, just that, the disappointment I've seen in this Showboats team, and how I expected them to actually be a lot more competitive than they have been this year.
Agreed. Let me roll to the comments, see if we got anything. Got Jay. The Showboats lost their soul in that week 2 loss against San Antonio. Some teams just can't come back from heartbreaking loss like that. I can see that, because that was that was intense. I was there. Mike, it's pronounced Cook-is, not Cook-is. Hey, Mike, I appreciate your comments. Come with some positivity at some point, though. Okay. All right, let's move on. Game 2. Now, this was the best game I have ever watched, probably in spring football. The St. Louis Battlehawks fell to the Birmingham Stallions 30-26. That game was in Birmingham. I enjoyed this game very much, very, very much. I sat on the edge of my seat watching it, eyes glued in. I tell you, this game was so good. When I went to watch Sunday's games, I was kind of bored by it, because we did not see the consistency of, you get the ball, get some yards, score. It's very simple football play, but I don't know. I guess we kind of take it for granted in the spring football world. But let's get Brian in here. Brian's our St. Louis guy with AFN. Brian, how's it going, man?
What's up, everybody? How's it going over in your guys' land?
Down south, it's hot and humid. I will say that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Now, Brian, were you in attendance for the game last week?
In Birmingham? No, I wasn't.
I didn't know. I know you travel quite a bit. So
I've gone to Michigan, and I'm planning on going to Arlington potentially. But no, I wasn't in attendance. I wish I was. That was and it's probably one of the closer games I could have gone to, too. But I've always wanted to, witness Alabama football in Alabama. So, but yeah, it was rough, watching that ending. But fun game, definitely, my favorite game so far this year, even though it was a loss.
Break it down for me a little bit, I guess, from your perspective. I'll have Ryan kind of do the Birmingham view of things, but how it went and kind of why you guys lost this game.
Yeah, it kind of felt like, well, I want to say this, props to Kurt Menefee. He's the play-by-play commentary. I love him in the NFL, and I just love listening to him. He's one of my favorite commentators. And it was cool to have him on. He didn't know much, he's done a few games so far this year for Fox, but he doesn't know a bunch, but I like his style. I don't want to talk about commentary though. This is one of those games where it felt like, we were on point at certain times, but it was one of those things where it was like both defenses were solid, but both AJ and Adrian would find holes at times, and it was just a good overall football game. And our special teams showed up again. It's one thing that we pride, the Battlehawks pride themselves in, is their special teams. And I think that's what kept it close. Definitely, kept it a close game was the special teams of the Battlehawks. But it was just rough. It was good coaching. That was one of the things that was noted by the commentators was Skip Holtz is so good at seeing what's happening and then pivoting in that moment. Like you saw, they were talking about like the motion using motion to confuse the corners and just get people in open spaces. And that was happening all the time in the second half. In the first half, the pass rush for the Battlehawks was awesome. And it sort of kept, we had a few sacks in the game and a few tackles for loss and a lot of pressure the whole game. And we really kept, for the most part, Adrian in from exploding as a player that he, like how he typically plays. So I don't know. I mean, it was fun. It was a rough loss, but that's sort of what my general thoughts were on it.
Gotcha. I mean, coming in, if you guys, if you had to play again next week, do you think we would see a better game?
I think if everybody's healthy, that's one thing that we were kind of with AJ getting his ankle rolled up on a little bit there at the end. And if we were to play again next week and health wasn't an issue, I think we would come in stronger. And especially if it was on home field turf, which is what I'm excited about. If we do make it to the championship, I'm assuming it'll be against the Stallions. That's what, Coach Beck was talking about. He was like, we'll see him again. And I'm like, that's what, we probably will. But we'll see. We don't know who we're playing in the first round yet. But yeah, no, I think if we played again, it would probably be close. And I think home field advantage is a huge thing for the Battlehawks.
Understood. Ryan, what's your take on it, man?
I said from the before the game was ever played that it was going to wind up being the last team to have the ball is going to win that game. And it turned out to be just that because it kept going back and forth and back and forth. They didn't, like you just said, they didn't let Birmingham run the ball like we usually do. We couldn't. He had to get out there and make some good passes. He actually wound up passing it to 10 different players in that game. That's the most that he's most different players that he's had to pass to in the entire season. So
wow.
Overall, they did a really great job. Like I said, we kept shooting. I said earlier, we kept shooting ourselves in the foot. Like you said, special teams came in big. The block punt, the muff punt. It just we just couldn't get long yardage in these the kickoffs and stuff like that, like we usually do. So we were hit with a little bit of an injury bug with ourselves. So our regular kick returner wasn't actually healthy, so we had Isaiah Zuber in there, which is a really good receiver. He really is. It's just he's still trying to get the hang of things. So, but overall, I think just competitive effort on both sides. And like you said, it did come down to the coaching because Coach Holtz knows how to manipulate and control the ball and manipulate that clock. So I've got to say that's a big thing. And even Adrian Martinez in the post game actually was asked what he thinks has been the main thing to keep the Stallions so successful over the past 3 years. And he said there's been different players come in and out, but there's been one thing that's been consistent, and that's Coach Holtz. So
true story.
I've got to say he's a legend himself. I mean, a lot of people think when they think of him, they think of his dad, but he's become a legend himself. So,
and it's kind of like a college football, atmosphere in terms of how they're running the show. Like you mentioned, new people coming in year after year and being successful and getting opportunities. And but they just have like a solid philosophy that they live by, and people just come in and they plug and play like, hey, we do this. This is how you do this. And that's something you don't, especially in spring football, you're not going to see a lot of anywhere else because the teams are so young. And I think that's one of the unique things about Birmingham that is like, should make everybody jealous that they don't have something like that.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
For sure. No doubt about it. So, guys, when you meet again, if you do, we feel like this is going to be another battle of attrition. Who's really going to take it home?
I mean, Battlehawks for sure. No, I don't. I mean, it'll be close. We were doing the pick'ems for this week for AFN, and I picked the Stallions. I was like, I needed to get I picked the Battlehawks every week up until this point, and I thought, I think we need to lose this game to win the championship against them. That was my thought. I was like, okay, let's just accept the loss here. And that was sort of why I picked them. But I don't know. It's you live and learn, and again, home field advantage for the Battlehawks. If we meet again this season, it would be in the championship. So I think we would have the slight advantage. But Birmingham's so good. It's rough.
You can't deny it, man. Jay said St. Louis needs to fix their issues on third down. I believe they went 4 for 13. That's not going to get it done. And yeah, I think they went 4 for 12. Yeah, 4 for 12, but close, very close. Yeah, I agree, especially if AJ McCarron's injured.
Right. And that isn't something new. I'm pretty sure we've had similar issues. For the most part, if we made it to third down, if we didn't get the first down by the second down, we would have, I don't know, it's just a scheming issue that I think our offensive coordinator struggles with. Brad Gradkowski, I think is his last name. But I don't know. It's a common issue for us. But we don't get to third down super often. But, yeah, I agree.
Let's talk about the attendance before you leave, Brian. So we had 14,056 in attendance in Birmingham, and we had 758,000 average TV viewers, just a little above 758,000. It's crazy to me that this number is not bigger. I'm not gonna lie. Now on the attendance we're good, but on the 758,000, I expected this game to be over the millions in average.
Yeah.
But we have to really think that this doesn't include app data. This only includes TV data. So I think if we hadn't had some of these application numbers, we would truly know better what's going on. And I know that doesn't factor in for money, but for looking at total people watching, it should definitely make a difference.
Right.
Now, I do know that it peaked over, I think, 1.2 million toward the end of the game, but it was definitely a shock that the average wasn't in over a million.
Just so that this was the Fox and the others were ESPN as well. That was another thing that kind of shocked me. I thought since this was a main station that it would be pretty high, and it was the highest of the week, but it's not really where we want to be for sure.
Yeah, and I was wondering if there was I don't know if there was anything else on, any sports on TV at that time. Probably not. I don't think playoff basketball is occurring around, that time. But, yeah, it was, those aren't amazing numbers. They were good, but I don't know if it's – I don't know. Like, I don't want to, jump to conclusions, but it kind of feels like they're – I have to watch illegally. Like when I watch it, and I'm sorry I'm saying that out loud, but when I'm watching, I have to watch illegally just because I don't have cable, and then I don't have like a Roku or a Fubo or whatever. So, and I usually will subscribe to like NFL, Sunday Ticket and all that stuff.
Yep.
I think that'll come in time. They'll figure, I think they just don't have the presence yet. In terms of, getting those partnerships set in place. But Fox, like you said, Fox, you would think there would be more viewers. But I did like the in-person attendance. I did like that.
Me as well. It looked a lot better. And I don't know, it may just be the times of the day also. You're looking at Saturday, a lot of people have activities in the spring. A lot of people with kids have sports, and especially with Mother's Day, you're doing different things. So right. I get it. And I feel you on the watching of the games. If it wasn't for this the UFL, I would be right there with you. I bought YouTube TV for the month, but I don't plan on keeping it. Now I'll tell you what I like. I really like the use of the digital antenna because that gives me all the stations I need for I think I paid like $10 for it or something.
Right.
And it works really well. So I'll say that. But even with that, like these games, if it wasn't for YouTube TV, I would have only been able to watch this single game throughout the whole day or weekend.
Right. I have a digital antenna behind my TV, and I haven't figured out how to set it up yet. I've tried twice, and I'm just going to have to YouTube it. Somebody will just have to explain it to me because I read the instructions. I was like, I don't know how this works. So maybe
hit me up, dude.
Yeah.
I can help you out, man. It's super simple. I'll help you out. Just shoot me a message for real.
All right.
I'll help you out. It's really simple once you get it, and it's making sure it's positioned correctly before you run your scan to add those channels to your TV.
Right.
But yeah, Brian, man, anything else you wanted to state about this game?
I'm looking forward to playing them again in June.
I agree.
I'm ready for it.
The showdown of the century. Look forward to it, man. And thank you, Brian, for coming on tonight.
Yeah, we'll talk soon.
Yes, sir. Be safe until next time. All right. So we'll wrap up with that. Like I said, to me, this was the best game of the week. This one had me absorbed, and I hope and pray we get some more of these before the eliminated teams can't play that playoff week.
Yeah, that was such a good game. And really, I think that was the most competitive game I've seen. So
definitely. Now I'll tell you, I feel like with some of the TV numbers, we are going to start going down as teams start losing and just becoming out of the playoff race or championship race. It's just going to happen. People are going to start losing interest in whatever team. And it's unfortunate, but hey, that's the way it works. I believe that's a small factor in some of the TV numbers, but I guess we'll see truly next week when we can analyze this again.
Yeah. I know, as far as the attendance, in-seat attendance, Birmingham's, they've been competing with a bunch of other events. I know they had A-Day, the Alabama spring game, the first week, and then the next week you had the weather and a Talladega race. And then this past week you had multiple big sold-out concerts and comedy shows right next door. So it seems like they're competing with all these other events. So,
and it's
we'll
hot.
have to see.
It's hot.
It's going to get, and it's only getting hotter. So
next week or this week,
outdoor stadium, it's going to be.
If you do it kickoff at 6 o'clock, it's not too bad, but it's still pretty peak hot. At 2 or 3, you're just sweating. I don't care what you do or where you go, man. It's rough. So you really got to be a fan to do that.
I'm really worried about if when we do clinch the home field for the playoff game against Michigan, because it's going to be at 2 o'clock. I think the first matchup, I mean, the last regular season game, I think it's like 11, and then it would have to play the next week at 2 o'clock. So going to be 2 really hot games.
That's a whole different kind of stamina, being able to play in that for the whole game, not cramp. That's the big thing, is the cramping. If you can alleviate the cramping and get a lot of electrolytes and fluids in you, you're fine. But if you start cramping up, man, hang it up for the day, because you're not doing much else. Rock Renegades said, going to be weird week 10, Michigan versus Birmingham when they play the week after. Yeah, that's what you just said. Brian popped back in. He said, popped out too quick. Yeah, it made me laugh, Brian. It's all good. Chris, I've been seeing you comment a lot, and I've been putting them up. Sorry, I've been reading them. Chris Mason said, bring on the playoffs is the prevailing attitude. For the Stallions, you bet.
Yeah, we can't look I hope the players don't look that far ahead, because they've got to keep that mentality of keeping everything 1-0, because they can't look too far ahead.
I'm
They can't
speaking of
afford it.
the fan standpoint, though, personally, when I said that.
Yeah. As far as the fan standpoint, yeah, it seems like everybody's ready to go ahead and see the playoffs because the top 4 teams seem like they're starting to kind of pull away a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. And besides the Stallions, I'm going to be honest with you. The to me it the numbers on a record scale are far off for some other than others, but I feel like some of these teams are evenly matched. It's just the fact that certain teams got the win.
Yeah.
Let's roll on to game 3. We'll get Mike Bell in here. Mike, how's it going, man?
Hey, Matthew, Ryan, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you, bud.
The
What's
Panthers.
it like? What's it
go
like
ahead.
rooting for a back-to-back USFL champion?
It's nice. It's been kind of refreshing to actually see how well we're doing. So
Yeah. What do you think of? I have to ask you before we get into the Panthers. What do you think about your quarterback situation compared to having Alex McGough?
I think it's up for debate right now because honestly, Adrian Martinez is something else. I think if we were to compare quarterbacks, I think Matt Corral would be more aligned with how Alex McGough was because he did run, but he didn't run near as much as Adrian has. So, but it's really good to see, us have, the man is the league's leading rusher right now.
I know.
So,
crazy.
it's crazy.
387 yards. It's crazy.
Yes.
He's meant for the NFL, guys. He's gone after this year.
He's been saying that. He's been saying that every press conference. And then Coach Hulse will be like, what? Playing for me isn't your main goal?
Yeah, he definitely slipped through the cracks.
The Panthers beat the
absolutely.
DC Defenders 22-9. All right. Let's get back on that topic in just a minute, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So coming in, Mike, I know you got to be ecstatic because this is exactly what you wanted to see from your Panthers. And I could tell as the weeks have went, it's kind of like the rise and the fall of the Panthers. And you've been slowly just getting down. And now with this, ching, it's back to normal, baby. So with a 22-9 win for those Panthers, they're looking at a playoff run, and they got to head on to Birmingham and face the Stallions. So tell me more about this game, and then we'll talk about the future after this.
Absolutely. So, going into the game, Panthers knew they had a shot at clinching the playoffs. They obviously needed some help from Arlington and the Brahmas. But one thing that happened to going into the game, and all week it was very confusing with the way the injury reports were out there with Danny Etling. And, I was on it. I was, being a detective on their Instagram, zooming in on pictures, and you could see Danny was practicing, but they weren't putting him they were putting him on the DNP. So they put him on a full go going into the game, and they last minute scratched him, which means Brian Lewerke out of Michigan State was going to get the start. And we haven't seen this guy have any kind of action since 2021 with the Alphas, with the Spring League, the TSL. So it's been a minute since we've seen that league. It was pretty quick, but it was a fun league to watch. That's the last time we've seen him play. And we had DC needing a win to stay into the playoff hunt. And I think everybody kind of went in thinking, this is kind of a nice, easy game for DC to take charge, build momentum off of last week over their win over the Brahmas. But Coach Nolan kind of really spread the message earlier this season. If EJ Perry's not going to be in, if you're the backup quarterback, the third string quarterback, just know who we are. We've talked all 7 weeks now about identity. We're a run team. As you can see in this clip on this 53-yard scamper by Matthew Colburn in the second, that we're a run team. Let's not be someone we're not. Let's not force throws. Let's take care of the ball. Most of all, not only manage the game, but manage yourself. And Brian Lewerke didn't try to be a hero on this day. And we saw a lot of Bryce Perkins too, which was nice. He's a guy out of Virginia. He played on the LA Rams. He did a start for them in relief of Matt Stafford. And it was nice to see both quarterbacks play, even though we wanted some consistency. But Coach Nolan put out there in the beginning of the season, if we have a lead, I want to get guys reps. So we might need Bryce down the line. So let's get him into the game. And that's what they did. They kept the foot on the gas. That first drive, 87 yards rushing from the Panthers. That in a game in which they had 187 total. So almost half of it in that first drive alone. And I kind of got worried, with Gavin Holmes muffing that punt, starting the drive from the 6-yard line, to have to ask a guy who hasn't played since 2021 to go 94 yards. And they did that by sticking to their identity and keeping their foot on the gas. If you could do that and give your defense a chance to do what they do, then you're going to do good. And that's what they did. They kept the foot on the gas. West Hills scored, make it 13-0. And then the one thing that's kind of the crutch of the Panthers, I feel like we just give up big plays. That's what I worry about going into a Stallions game in the future. A couple weeks ago, we gave up an 82-yarder to Dawood Davis, longest pass play in the UFL. This week, a 70-yarder from Tyoma to Ty Scott. Yeah, keeps them in the game. Defenders get some momentum back. But luckily, Michigan Panthers defense plays good. The drives, they extend into the other side of the field. They get 3 Jake Bates field goals on the day, making it 22-6. The McCrane did hit one to make it 22-9. But with the run game and Matthew Colburn setting a season high for the Panthers with 137 yards, it was the story of the day. Along with, I have to mention, Breland Speaks with that giant monster hit on Jordan Tiamo, knocking him out of the game, sending him into the nether realm, as I put it. Big game by the defense, big game by the offense. And then I also want to note Samson Nakua, brother of Kai Nakua and Puka Nakua, had 6 receptions for 45 yards. So, I mean, this is his first kind of main action this year. And he stepped up and being one of those possession type receivers to help extend drives. So good game by the Panthers. Thanks to a comeback by the Brahmas. Michigan's in the playoffs, ready to give Ryan Messer some problems here later this season.
He's going to have his own episode of the Stallion Stampede. Ryan, from what he's saying, I mean, how you feel about that?
Hey, you've seen how our offense has been able to manipulate and make long pass plays with what defenses have given us this year. So that game was that first game up there, and now y'all gotta come down here to potentially 2 games in a row. So
yeah. And ironically, through that game, though, if we backtrack, we give up 17 points to Matt Corral, but only 3 points to Adrian Martinez. So it's interesting, since then Adrian Martinez has kind of really taken off. And at that time, they're still doing the 2 QB system. Neither one of them could get momentum. So I'm a little bit worried for sure.
Yeah, he's really kind of matured as a passer, especially. He's always been able to, tuck the ball and run, but just being able to getting that accuracy and making good decisions. And I think the biggest thing is the chemistry with all these receivers has been the major thing. So his comfortability of making those passes and stuff like that. So his comfort levels really definitely affected how well he's performed as the season has progressed.
Absolutely. Agreed. It seems like you guys have mainly faced passing teams, though. I mean, when you faced a run team, it's been a little bit closer. So I'm interested to see how that goes with us being a mainly run team, and we're finally got our offensive line issues worked out. And pretty good rushing team. You guys have the number 1 defense, so we'll bring it on, right?
Most sacks, most tackles for loss.
Yep.
Yeah.
Michigan right now is second in rushing average in the whole league. So you are very correct in what you're saying, Mike.
Yeah, and you guys have the leading sack guy, Carlos Davis, and we have the second with Breland Speaks with 5.5. So
Both mean.
wow.
They're mean men.
yeah,
I thought it was interesting that Michigan only held DC to 58 yards
yeah,
total for the whole game. It was clear as day that affected them majorly.
yeah. And,
I didn't expect this one to get run away like it did personally. And like I said, I kind of got bored with it. There was a point where it's like, okay, something going to happen. Or are we just going to keep seeing Michigan kick some
Yeah.
ass?
I
And
mean,
we
as
saw
a
them kick
fan, I
some
was
ass.
excited to see that, because you want the dominant win.
I understand.
But as a UFL fan, I went into it thinking like this is game of the week type vibes. Everybody's focusing on Stallions, Battlehawks, but both teams are vying for those playoffs here. It felt like DC was going to bring a better game, but I guess not.
We had 12,222 in attendance, and then we had 665,000 average TV viewers on ESPN. This one was in DC, and I
Yep.
know when I posted a lot of these numbers on the socials, my biggest feedback was that didn't look like 12,000 people.
Yeah. It's just the way they spread it out, it seems like, which is you could see why they only open certain sections for other stadiums. But, these older type stadiums, it seems like they just let everybody sit wherever. So, yeah.
Well, I think they count paid as well, whether you come or not. If that ticket has been
Right.
purchased, it counts towards that number. And so that's a big thing.
I do wonder if, like, when they're doing those BOGO deals, if they're not, if someone's not bringing in the other person, and that's being counted, that's just something.
Hey, you can join old Mike Palco and the other guys on
Yeah.
Facebook talking about the conspiracies.
Yeah. I do see that.
I appreciate you, Mike, man. I hope things are going well with the newborn, as always.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's going perfect. Can't ask for better. So
You look at much better health this week. You look like you've actually slept and had some
Yeah.
time off, bro.
Yeah. Last week was a little rough, but we're back into the rhythm, just like the Michigan Panthers. So
I love it, man. I appreciate you, Mike.
yeah,
Keep doing
appreciate
your
you
thing,
both.
brother.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. We'll see you next week.
Sounds good.
All right. Always good time when Mike T. Bell joins the party. Some enjoyable conversations with him for sure. Let's roll on to game 4. We'll bring XFL MikeG in. What's up, XFL MikeG? How's it going?
Going good. How are you guys doing?
Very good. Let's
good,
talk
pretty
about
good.
this tough game down at Rice Stadium in Houston Sunday. The San Antonio Brahmas that won 15-12 against the Roughnecks. But man, did they have to fight for it. This was a rough showing for those Brahmas. Mike, you want to kind of break it down for us?
Yeah, it was very reminiscent of the Arlington game. It was kind of a slog, an ugly game, an ugly win. If you take away the last game-winning field goal and the last interception and touchdown, it was an ugly game. We could not move the ball on offense in a lot of aspects. We had a bunch of drops. There's no sugarcoating that. We had tons of drops. Some were on Dormady. In the Arlington game, he seemed like he was overthrowing his receivers, and in this game, it seemed like he was shorting them quite a bit. But there were some receivers and some running backs that dropped some easy passes. So it was one of those things. It was excuse me. Grab this here. All right, sorry about that. It was a pretty back and forth game defensively. The Brahmas started out with their first 2 drives in the first quarter. Both ended up with fumbles in the red zone area. We just couldn't do it. We had a hard time getting into the end zone. If we could have converted those into touchdowns, we would have been up easily 2 scores in the first quarter, as opposed to being 3-0 in the first quarter. Halftime ended up 3-3. It was, like I said, it was a defensive slog. The thing that was most striking to me overall in this game was if you looked at our drives and how they ended. The first drive was fumble. Second drive, fumble. Third drive, field goal. Next 2 drives were punts, another fumble, interception, and then finally the touchdown and the field goal to win the game. So it's very concerning to me that this team heading into the playoffs is not being able to capitalize on some of these drives. And again, on third down, we were like 3 out of 12, 3 for 12 in third down conversions. It seems like we almost played down to our competition. First half, we're kind of skittish. Second half, third quarter's a little bit slow, but that fourth quarter, we tend to turn it on and do things that we need to do. Big shout out to our defense and our special teams for pulling through for us. It was something else. I'm slightly concerned that if we keep playing down to this level, that we're not going to get to where we want to get.
Yeah, I agree with that statement. And it seemed like you guys had found your guy in Quentin Dormany, and he was the guy. And now we're looking at a completely different configuration, in my opinion, for this next week.
Yeah, I know he was shaking off things. He had some injuries, nothing official, nothing reported, nothing to keep him out that we saw. I believe in the DC game with that disaster of a final play, he might have hurt one of his wrists. He was clearly frustrated on the sidelines, so they made the change and they went with Hogan at the end. And I think it was more of a change of a pace or needing a spark as opposed to him being ineffective.
Yeah,
I mean, he did have some short passes, I should say, but there was passes that clearly hit the receivers in the hands. They just dropped. There was a couple of receivers that were looking up the field before they would catch the ball, and that was slightly concerning. But I think Dermody will be back this week, and I think he'll be if they can get his confidence going against Arlington at home, we're set up for a good run to the playoffs.
Yes, sir. So this game was hard, man. It was tough.
Yeah,
because they're in the first few minutes of the game, the first two possessions for San Antonio, we saw them fumble the ball, and I'm watching shocked. Like, where is this team? What happened? The interception as well kind of was sealing the deal for them in terms of, like, I mean, they basically said, "Here, Roughnecks, score," and they could not do it. The Roughnecks could not capitalize on any of these mistakes that were made by the Brahmas. Luckily, if they could have, and this would have been, let's say, Michigan, for example, San Antonio would have not won this game, in my opinion. That, speaking just from the way things went, that 18-play drive that ended the game, it would not have happened with a more I don't want to say consistent, but a defense that shows up every single play. This Houston Roughnecks defense was wore out by the end of the game as well.
Oh, yeah, and the conditions there were hot and muggy, and it was not pleasant to be around. I know some people were talking about attendance numbers, and it's a conversation that we all have, but I made it a point to look around the stadium here at Rice and kind of observe what I saw. We were sitting on the visitor sideline directly behind the Brahmas bench on the 40-yard line. I mean, if you watch the replays, you can see us and you can hear us for sure. I know I heard myself several times. But behind us, where the press box is, it's kind of a covered awning. It's kind of where the top level comes down and provides some shelter for some seats underneath. And that's where I saw more than anything. I saw a lot of Roughneck fans there, kind of staying out of the elements, staying in the shade, and staying out of the drizzle that would come by.
Yeah, let's roll into I'm going to throw the numbers up. We had 6,000 in attendance, a little over 6,000. 572,585 average TV viewers on ESPN. I'm guessing this was a lot of the same folks that just didn't turn the game off that was on prior. The thing about Rice is a lot. This is the feedback I'm getting. This isn't me, in my opinion, but a lot of fans are not happy with the conditions of Rice Stadium right now. They're not happy with the Houston Roughnecks team, whether it's coaching, play, whatever, however you want to swing it. And it was Mother's Day, so we knew that this was going to affect some of these numbers. And plus, being in Houston, man, it is humid as hell. It is another level of humidity. So I get the attendance numbers. In terms of the TV numbers, I was impressed with that. I figured that this was going to be the lowest of the week, just considering that most people were going to expect the Brahmas to come through and just steamroll the Roughnecks. it didn't happen that way, but it could have been the story if they wanted it to be.
Yeah, and then that's what I was fully expecting. I was fully expecting a 34-39-12 game in favor of the Brahmas. And like I said, the first two possessions right out of the gate in the first quarter ended up with fumbles. There was another touchdown that we missed onto Kirkland. There was the DB that was covering Latimer didn't chase him all the way to the corner of the end zone. So when that slant was there, he dropped off of him, and he was right there to break up that pass. So that wasn't even on Dormady. That was just a broken coverage. And, I mean, they could have easily been 21 or 3 touchdowns to nothing in the second quarter. I mean, we definitely could have rolled them. It's just we couldn't capitalize. The 3-and-outs, we had 2 3-and-outs. One of them was a 4-and-out. But it's like if we don't get yardage or get going or get a completion on the first 2 downs, we're going to struggle.
Yeah, I agree with that. I could see that. And I thought it was interesting, too. You know, Cody Latimer really wasn't that busy till the end of the game. And then they depended on him to pick it up. He's one of my favorite players of this league, I'd say.
Definitely. AJ Smith needs to look at Cody Latimer as Jason Witten of this offense. He needs to be a safety blanket. He needs to be a safety valve. You know, they need to utilize him a little bit more in those terms instead of maybe looking for verticals and things of that nature.
Yeah, Jay said San Antonio needs to learn to lean on Lovett and Ellison against the Arlington defensive front next week. 100%. 100%.
Yeah, Ellison did fairly well. Lovett was on and off. He had that diving attempt from like the 5-yard line where he was trying to hurdle somebody, and I can't remember his name. The defender for Houston came in and knocked the ball loose. I don't know if he was amped or just it felt like some nervous energy coming from him, and he settled down after the third quarter. But Ellison was able to come in there, and I believe he had 60 yards rushing or 50 or 60 yards rushing.
Yeah, that Houston defense is legitimate. It's not something to shy away from. I think at that fourth quarter point, they were just so wore out. They're dealing with constant injuries on that defense as well for Houston. So I think that's another factor. I think Reuben Foster went down 2 or 3 different times this game, just him alone. And so I feel that. I mean, coming from a Houston perspective, it's pretty disappointing to watch this offense. We thought they had a rhythm and a motor to move, but right now we're not getting much going. We keep hearing more of Mark Thompson, but I'm thinking from looking at stats, I believe he's getting less touches a game every game as we go. This last game, he had 9 attempts for 38 yards. His longest was 36-yard play. So, I mean, it's rough that way.
Yeah, I mean, I can only really remember his name being called on a significant run maybe once.
Yep.
Maybe they tailored that offense towards him and they expected him to be there. And when he wasn't ready to go, they didn't have much to fall back on. Garantano, he can move the offense, but he's still a little bit more run first, maybe keep his eyes in front instead of as opposed to down the field. If he could learn to be consistent and stay in the pocket, I think he'd be a great quarterback. But right now he's still young. He's still getting his reps. He's still figuring out how to play. That's why I like the consistency of Sinnett, but he obviously wasn't able to go this week. Overall, with Houston, I think they didn't add enough in the offseason. They basically took the Gamblers, put them in Houston, rebranded them the Roughnecks, and didn't really add too much to what they already had. And I believe they were 500 last year, 5-5, and they barely missed the playoffs as well. So in the offseason, I like the staff. I think they need to add more players to this staff, to this team, and maybe they'll can contend then.
Yeah, and Houston, in terms of athletics and sports, they don't like to lose. Those fans don't like to lose. So this was expected with the team kind of performing unwell. Ryan, what do you think about it, man? We haven't got much from you. I mean, I know being as a USFL guy, is this the Gamblers from last year coming forth now in Houston?
That's what I was actually thinking. It just seemed that it reflected on that. They had that game. It seemed like they had that game won there at the end, and then they just that special teams killed them. I think that's really what it came down to. It just so many mistakes there, and then Brahmas wound up capitalizing on it. So
It's 7 penalties for 65 yards total on Houston. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm reading that wrong. I lied. Let me go back. I was reading Birmingham. 5 penalties for 13 yards. So it really wasn't too bad of a game. Not too bad, but I understand what you're saying. It was those crucial points. It's like the drop there at the end on that punt. I mean, that was all Houston, and then boop, choked it out. That's the game.
Yep.
We got a bunch of comments rolling through. I'm going to hit some of them up. Jackie said Swampy Butt is a real thing. Yeah, it is. In Texas, especially Alabama, Mississippi.
Yes.
It doesn't matter where you're at, man.
For sure. And while we're talking about Jackie, I just want to thank her. She has organized these road trips so we can, as Brahma fans, all sit together and be kind of our own small community that kind of overtakes these stadiums. They might have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 people there, but it started out with the 8 in Memphis, and now I believe it was like 25 or 30 of us in one section behind the Brahmas bench, kind of just taking over Rice Stadium. So kudos to her. The Horns Forward guys, Texans Talking Football, for making that happen for us regular fans,
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Horns Forward, there's a few different groups out there. We're very familiar with Horns Forward, so I mean, they're some of the best that I know that do it for the love and the passion. That's why I like them so much, and I've seen them in action in games.
Oh yeah,
and I'm telling you, those 5 or 6, 8 people are louder than half the stadium in Memphis during that Week 2 game.
Oh, yeah, and we're just getting louder and louder, and we're finally coming back to the Dome against Arlington. It's going to be packed. We want everybody to be there. And some of the chants that we kind of worked out on the road, we're going to try to bring those to the Dome and just make it an incredibly bad place to play for the opponents.
She said the Bulls on tour crew.
Yeah.
Let's hit up Brahma Bulletin said, I'd like to take credit for the false start penalties that Houston committed. I could hear myself on the TV broadcast saying that. Watch the ball is what I was always taught. Don't listen, watch.
Yeah, we also had an incredible moment. Well, we had lots of moments sitting behind the bench, and these fans are known to the Brahmas players and the coaching staff. So, they interacted with us after the game and some of the, during the game. But as everybody was filing out and we're just kind of there talking, one of the coaches, I believe it was Coach Reed, made a beeline for us. It was BD, Brian, SAJ, RJ, Brahma Bolton, and myself. And we're just there talking. We're fixing to head up the stairs. And he's like, hey, you guys. I just wanted to let you know I was in the press box and I could hear you guys. You guys made it feel like it was a home game. So he shook everybody's hands and just said, keep it going, keep the support up. And I grabbed a picture of it, and I should have sent it to you to share. But I've never seen this level of interaction for any team. That you can't do that with the Cowboys. You can't do that with any other team. You're not going to go and talk to the coaches unless you know somebody or you're a season ticket holder spending tens of thousands of dollars a year.
Yeah, you definitely get the access if you want it. There's no doubt about that. It's just like what we do. You definitely have to work to become a media member for this league, but once you get there, it's well worth it. And I mean, I enjoy it. I've been present for NFL things, and it's much more of a business mindset at every practice and event and game you go to. Whereas compared to this, it's everybody's there because they want to be, not because they have to be. So that's kind of the different feel of it, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. And people were complaining about the crowds. I kind of liked it because I could sit and go anywhere I want. If I wanted to take a picture from a different angle, if I wanted to move around to be able to have a better view, thanks Houston for not, having too many people there in our way.
Did I pop the numbers up yet for attendance?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, cool.
And I honestly felt it was closer to 4,000 or 5,000. Like I said, there was people tucked up underneath the second level. They were covered because maybe they didn't want to be out in the sun. It did wear out you by the third quarter. We're looking at each other as fans on the bench going, I'm wore out. you know. But you know, there's more people there than somebody said there was like 1,000 people there. It's like no, it was 4,000 to 5,000. You know, they're counting people who bought season tickets and didn't go. You know, and you really can't blame them for that. Wouldn't you do the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, Wikipedia says that Rice Stadium holds 47,000. So you could see if there was only 6,000 there, it's going to look like pepper on white. You know, it's not going to be much going on. So
I did see an awful lot of yellow though, and I definitely heard it.
Yeah. You know why? It's because you're in Houston, and a lot of the Houston fans are still there repping those Brahmas because that was their team, sir. I thought long and hard about adopting the Brahmas team, but I don't know. I've liked the outside in views of this coming season. It's been quite different for me.
Oh yeah, I mean this is the greatest ride I've ever been on as a fan, and I've followed championship teams, but this is the most exciting because this is the closest I've ever been. I've never been able to have this kind of access, you know, with I'm a Cowboy fan or the Spurs, you know, with some of those teams, as you can as a regular fan with the UFL and the San Antonio Brahmas.
Yeah, agreed. Now, let's make one more statement. Jay said Houston has not had a chance to gel. Injuries have plagued them all year. Mark Thompson was the Gamblers' offense last year. This year they miss him a ton, and TJ Pledger has been okay, but he's not a healthy Mark Thompson. And I agree with you on everything you said, Jay. But as that coach in charge, they should have come up with a backup plan for an offense to run, a scheme to be able to be proficient in and not depend on one man to hold that ball. And that's kind of what a lot of the feedback and stuff that I've gotten from people is, even from the draft, from the jump, we were asking, what the hell is going on in Houston? Why are we picking all these running backs? So I'm not telling you that's right or wrong. I'm just telling you that's what I've viewed from my standpoint and running the social medias and stuff. I'm real good about not telling people how to think, but I'll tell you how people think from what I've gathered on my own for research and factual comments. I mean, if I showed you some of the comments, some of the things that I found, I've thought about it too, you know, kind of blurring names out, taking it on the screen, yeah. But I don't want to do that. So, but just know that I agree with you. And Mark Thompson is a stud, but this offense should have had something else besides Mark Thompson. And I'm sorry, but the chances were there.
Absolutely.
So, anything else before we roll out, Mike?
I think I'm good right now, but I want to give it. I gave my shout out to Texans Talking Football and Horns Forward. I'm also going to give us a plug over at Chewing the Cud, aka the Brahma Bulletin with RJ and myself. Will be on Thursday at 7:00. Make sure to give us a like and a follow.
For sure, I'll share it out everywhere. For sure.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Mike. All right. So, we got some comments. Martin Nelson from UFL Board commented, last week I asked CJ Johnson if Mark Thompson was healthy as he could be, and he said yes. And I mean, I would, I don't know. So, Mark, I see what you're saying, and I remember asking him weeks 1 and 2, when are we going to see him? And we couldn't really get a answer of what was wrong, how long he intended to be on being out. So I'm not sure what the deal is at this point. You got any opinions on that, Ryan?
I really don't know.
I just want to ask.
I haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah, I don't think he's injured. He said, what else would he say, though? So when weeks 1 and 2, I would expect a schedule of when he was returning, what was wrong, how he got injured. Was it during the season? Was it before the season? Was it week 1 during the game? I mean, these are all questions that I would want an answer for. And when I attended those conferences, we did not get an answer like that. We got a general, we're going to run the ball and do the best we can. And that was kind of the what I got numerous occasions from hearing Coach Johnson talk. And Chris Mason chiming in, beat down by the Panthers incoming. Chris, you're a ball, man. I always look for your comments, dude. Crack me up. Okay, so that was week 7. It was a good one, but on to week 8. Just going to quickly review the matchups, the times, and what channel they're on, and we can discuss it more if you want, but typically I just kind of do this so people know what's going on with the games. I don't try to break it down in depth for the matchup. So week 8 games. Our first game, week 8, Saturday, May 18th, the Memphis Showboats take on the Michigan Panthers in Michigan. That game starts at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern, and it takes place on Fox. If the Showboats don't do anything this game in terms of offense, in terms of offensive line, we're probably going to look at the Panthers doing their thing. And that's honest opinion. Curious who comes back as quarterback for Michigan as well, if they'll kind of stay with Lurky or if they'll go, they have options. So we'll see what happens. Mike, now when Mike was in, he mentioned that, but the injury reports are kind of choppy sometimes. It's like we thought that the Panthers were going to have a whole different direction until that injury report dropped Friday.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden at the last minute, they'll be practicing all week long, and then all of a sudden they're not playing.
Yep. Mike, go ahead.
That's just how it's been.
Yeah,
this entire season.
Mike started watching videos, and last week that's where he kind of deducted who was going to be where from watching the videos they were putting out and seeing, if they matched up on paper at least, and they didn't. Personally, I understand this, and it's kind of hard to coordinate that, but I think on the DFS standpoint and for betting, this information about the injuries is super important.
Mm-hmm.
As a normal fan, it is important, but it's not as important as DFS or betting. And if you're really trying to make that part of this leg, you're going to have dedication and consistency to this.
Yeah, and Fox is, being the top shareholder, is really leaning into the whole gambling aspect of sports. So they're that's one of their big things right now. So, and it's showing because they're putting out all the odds and live odds throughout the entire game. So it's crazy to see how this has just evolved over the past few years.
Did you guys? I mean, was the betting aspect part of the USFL? Because I'm honest with you when I say I didn't really watch it, so I don't know.
Nah, but Fox is for the past few years has been, especially with collegiate sports and stuff, they've been putting it up there. As far as the NFL as well, but Fox has really leaned into the sports betting aspect of things and making that a part of their program model. Yeah,
I can see the difference in Fox this year for sure compared to last year, even NFL. I know that watching the ESPN last year, which was the main partner or whatever of XFL, we saw a lot of the betting lines shifting and talks about money line, everything. So that's why I was curious, because if you watch the Fox productions, they mention it, but if you watch the ESPN productions, they are on it. They're constantly talking about it. Constantly. I noticed that a couple weeks back. Oh, shoot, wrong game. Second game for Saturday, May 18th. The Houston Roughnecks take on the Birmingham Stallions in Birmingham. This is a night game. Game starts at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's on ESPN 2. So check that out, guys. If you don't...
It's a night game.
Yeah, I'm glad it is, too, because, I mean, this is going to be a lot more comfortable than a 3 p.m. game. Especially right now, we're probably looking at... I haven't looked at the weather, but I know right now it's like 85, humidity super high, so you're probably looking at 95-ish, 90, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the Stallions have any kind of issues with Roughnecks coming and playing at home?
It's hard to tell because like I said, that team is sneaky good, and they don't seem like the kind of team that's just going to sit there and lay down like it seems like that the Showboats have. They don't have that sense of just giving up at all. So I think they're going to give up a fight. I do think that the Stallions are going to come out on top, but I think they're going to give us a good fight.
We shall see. I'll be watching for sure. I've been waiting for a night game. The last night game in Birmingham was a mess with the weather. Sunday, May 19th, the Defenders take on the Battlehawks in the Battle Dome. That game starts at 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern, and it's on ABC. This is the only ABC game of the week. I'm betting we're going to be looking at, well, at least 32,000 in attendance in St. Louis. The early time is going to hurt them a little bit for sure. And speaking of DC, I'm curious if Teamu is good to go, if he'll be playing this game.
I don't know. I haven't heard anything about him. I know I think that was the first time that we've actually had to see an emergency third quarterback have to come in. Was in that game, if I'm not mistaken, this season. But I hated to see that get injury like that.
Yeah, I hate to see the injury, but man, I love to see them big hits. I'm not gonna lie to you. I remember back when AAF started, I didn't know what AAF was, and I was flipping through the TV and I found a game, and I can't remember who was playing, but I mean, somebody got just obliterated. Their helmet flew off, and I became a fan of the AAF just like that. So anyway, Chris Mason said, any given Saturday night. What were you saying?
Still missing my Birmingham Irons, though.
Oh, yeah, man. I miss all those teams. The themes are just like nothing you've seen before. I feel that. So we got questions coming in. We'll get to them in just a second. I want to go ahead and review the last game while we're at it. So the last game of Sunday, it's the Arlington Renegades at the San Antonio Brahmas. That game starts at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern, and it's on Fox. I'll tell you that if the Brahmas play like they played the Roughnecks last week and the new Renegades show up, this is going to be a game. I look forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be big. I think, honestly, this is a game. Watch out for Arlington, because I think this is a game that they could place big time spoiler in.
Agreed.
I know it's at San Antonio at the Alamodome, but I think it's going to be a really close game.
Yeah, it should be, especially if we're looking at the same thing as last week. No doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Arlington has had its issues, but hopefully with that game last week, they click together and can pull out at least a sub-average season this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy just to see that last week being their first win, like I said. But it's just, I think that team's better than what the record shows, like I said.
They made a statement last week, for sure.
Absolutely.
And because I was very, very, very scared that this team would not pull the win off this year, just because they're doing it to themselves. And now we know that they can do it, clicking into overgear. Luis Perez is the man.
And
go ahead.
They only had a month to get ready in camp. So, like I said about Adrian Martinez and the chemistry, you've got to get that chemistry together, because most of these teams are not the same teams that they had last year. None of them are, because of the way the drafts went. So it's crazy just to see that that all these teams are getting better as the season goes on, with the exception of Memphis, it seems like.
There's always got to be one. And we still got a few games in the tank to see what happens with Memphis as well. I had a comment from Mark Nelson about Memphis above where there he says the flip says Showboats are evaluating their QBs. So we'll see who actually starts next week. But like I said, looking at the numbers from last week's game, week 7, they were almost even, and they were probably played similar time amounts, if not the same almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that does it for week 8's games. Guys at home, watch the games, turn them on. If you're leaving the house, turn it on and leave the house. Every little bit helps, I promise. Anything you got, though, man, about week 8 you want to mention? We'll be wrapping it up here in a second.
Yeah, just seems like it's going to be a few good matchups there. So I really hope to see some very competitive matchups here in this last stretch of the regular season, getting ready for the postseason.
Chris Mason making fun of my comment. Turn on the game and leave the house. Hell, if you're not interested and you're watching this podcast, something's wrong. That's
Absolutely.
all I got to say. If you sat through this podcast and you're not a UFL fan, you need to figure out some other aspect of life that I can't help you with.
If you'd rather be watching this podcast instead of actual game, the actual sport itself.
Been a good show, Ryan, man. I appreciate you. I know we met up, in January, February, and talked. Yeah. And then, so this is actually getting you on, and I appreciate you coming, dude. And anytime you want to come on, I tell everybody, just let me know. If you need me for something, reach out as well. It's always good to network and kind of just talk, man. That's what the show's about. So,
absolutely. I appreciate you having me on, man.
Yes, sir. You as well. Guys, you can find him at the Stallion Stampede and Shotgun Sports. I'll put the notes, everything in the everywhere. So YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, it'll all be there. You can find it and easily click it if you're not already following him. But Ryan's a good one to keep track of and to see news about the Stallions from. He attends all these events in person, and he does it for the love and the passion, just like a few of the people I know in this realm. So appreciate you, Ryan, man. Seriously.
Appreciate the shout out, man.
Yes, sir. Anything else you want to say before we roll out?
Just like I said, like you said, stay tuned. We got a lot of few things. I mean, a bunch of stuff coming soon about the page, but we just mainly ready to get the rest of the season over with and get to the playoffs.
Yep, it's a coming, man. And then we'll be having expansion rumor talk.
Yeah.
September. That's one of the questions I got from T-Bell before you roll out. He said, did you hear about next season they're possibly doing Friday night games? Yeah, I saw that as well.
That was a bit deceiving, in my opinion, because they said that they were going to have programming, sports programming on Friday night. And they just threw out there, college football, I think basketball, stuff like that. And then at the end, they said UFL. But we'll have to see on that one. I'm not sure if they're actually going to have Friday night games, or it could even be a show hyping up about or getting commentary about the upcoming game. So they didn't specify anything on that. So
yeah, you're like me where I love the news, but until I see and know exactly what's going on, I'm going to take it with a grain of salt.
Absolutely.
And that's what you guys at home can do as well. You don't have to listen to someone tell you how to think. You can judge this information for yourself, just like a lot of the people that are involved with the show or have their own shows do. I mean, I know, like Ryan, talking to you, your opinion isn't what you put forward. You put forward the information, and that's the way I am as well.
Because I don't want to sit there and put false information out there and have to, make a retraction. I report what's there, And if there is anything that's been false information, I try to make sure I do a retraction on that.
Yep.
Because I'm all about old school journalism. So
Yep.
I know there's a lot of folks out there that do not, retract their inaccurate statements and stuff, but we try to make sure it's all there and make sure it's accurate.
Yep. I'm right there with you, dude. And you could easily farm some engagement with some of these talking points. And I know that, you know that. We choose not to, but it is what it is. I think that's it, man. Is there anything you want to shout out or say before rolling out?
Like you said, I appreciate you having me on. If you could, just make sure you guys follow us on Stallion Stampede, Shotgun Sports Network, on Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube.
Yes, sir. Thank you again, Ryan. I'll be looking at you, man. Checking out your content.
Thanks for having me on again. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Anytime. Thank you. Okay, let's wrap it up. Appreciate Ryan again for coming on. Stallion Stampede is a good show, guys, especially if you're a Stallions fan. Check that out. But otherwise, it's also a good show to check out Birmingham sports. I mean, he does a lot of different things with the Birmingham sports there. So check him out. He has the relationships and the credentials to go where he wants and do what he needs in terms of different sporting events there in Birmingham. So super good person to keep up with and follow. Check them out, please. I'll include the notes in everything as well. Week 8 is here. Should be a good time. And like I said, check the games out, support the league. I don't know, comment, share, like, do whatever you need to do to make your fandom known. It's much appreciated if you watch the show. Thank you. If you watch the whole episode, I especially want to say thank you. It's always a good time, and we love doing what we do here at AFN. I need to say thanks to UFL board and the UFL for UFL board supporting me and helping me out. Mark's a good guy, man. He gives me some good resources and also kind of got me off the ground doing this. And then the UFL for letting me cover the league. Appreciate everything and letting me go to games and just experience it as media. So thank you. We'll be back next week, guys. Next Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Same thing. We'll review week 8. If we have anything come in between there, I'll definitely let you know and we'll get something scheduled. We may do an injury show this weekend. It just depends. We'll see what happens. But yeah, it's always a good time. It's always appreciated. Thank you all for watching again. I'm Matthew Tyler, and we'll see you all next week. Maybe this week. Who knows? But UFL week 8. Here we go. Bye-bye.
Go hard. Go home. Go home. Go hard. Go hard. Go home. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go home.